Ben Wallace is standing down as Defence Secretary at the next cabinet reshuffle, which apparently is now going to be in the autumn. So just after the party conference, I suppose, or just before the party conference, limbering up towards the next election. And Ben Wallace has clearly decided that he's not going to win that next election and he's quitting. This may be sour grapes about not getting the NATO job. It may be that he's finally recognised that he's not as funny as he thinks after he managed to offend President Zelensky with his Amazon list joke. But, it's all a matter of shade, isn't it? Ben Wallace, the longest-serving Defence Secretary since Winston Churchill, looks good when compared to the Foreign Secretary, what's his name now? Hunt, yes, it was Hunt, wasn't it? No, it wasn't Hunt, it was Dominic Raab. Oh, almost forgettable, isn't he? I'm sure he's a very nice person in reality, but my goodness, he's a yawn. Lying on the beach of Crete, slapping on number 10, hoping for promotion, hoping for advancements, and not giving a damn for the people who've sacrificed their lives and their careers to save the people of Afghanistan, who are now in league and under the thumb again of the Taliban because of our indifference and our lack of coordination. You can blame Biden, you can blame other people, but in the end, I blame Dominic Raab's suntan lotion. And I don't think, Ben Wallace looks better than Dominic Raab, but it doesn't say very much, does it really? And Ben Wallace might be remembered for his role in the Ukraine war, but I think he's more likely now to be remembered for his jibe about the Amazon list. Where Wallace has been able to send anti-tank missiles in advance of the conflict. He has been a great advocate for weapons for Ukraine, but at the same time, he's not been a great advocate for keeping the dialogue with Putin open. And I think that's something that should have been maintained. We have two hands. We have two hands for a good reason, so that with this hand we can do one thing, and with the other hand that at the moment is holding the phone, we can do something quite different. Two hands for the two prongs of our approach to any single problem. And I know people think that I'm not consistent. I know people also think that I'm hypocritical. Well, that's the nature of having two hands. And this is one of the reasons why I ridicule Liz Truss, because both her hands seem to be on some sort of string, which is propelled by a puppeteer. God knows who that puppeteer is, but he's not very good, or she's not very good. And, we have two hands, so they swirl around in different ways. I remember when I was first animating and learning the tricks of animation, and particularly dependent on the ideas of Richard Williams, who I first met when I was 11. I wrote him a fan letter for his film of A Christmas Carol. If you haven't seen it, do pick it up and do look at it, because it's spectacularly good, bringing to life the fizz illustrations of the original publication. And Richard Williams was very keen not to twin hands, and I didn't fully understand what that meant. And I understand it now. One hand should be slightly different to the other. Maybe you can do this by a sort of perspective shift. But when both hands are doing exactly the same thing, they look ridiculous. And now we have an example of that in real life in the rhetorical flourishes of Liz Truss. And I know I ridicule her hand jobs, but they are ridiculed with purpose, because it's in the hand. The hand is the extension of our voice. You remember the wonderful the wonderful song in Kismet, or maybe you don't, but it's another great musical film, another great musical that is worthy of checking out in a sort of languid moment. It's very difficult to get hold of a copy. I have copies, and I treasure them enormously. But there's this wonderful song, Gesticulate, and he explains why it would be a crime, indeed, to cut off his hands. Howard Keel is explaining in the film that it would be a crime to cut off his hands because he's a storyteller, and a storyteller needs his hands in order to tell a good story. And he convinces the rather nasty Khalif that he should keep his hands. Anyway, I shall see you all later. I think I think we need to pause. Did I say that? Did I talk about the projected visit of Prince Mohammed bin Salman? Even though there seems to be no real advance on the Khashoggi murder investigation, but yes, he's on his way to us shortly after the cabinet reshuffle. So that will all be very exciting. Who will be shaking hands with Khashoggi, and should we worry about whether or not they should drink the tea afterwards? No, Khashoggi is. No, not shaking hands with Khashoggi. He's dead. Shaking hands with MBS. We shouldn't worry about the tea, really. The Novichok thing is a Russian thing. Did you know that Novichok basically means new thing? So you just sort of look around the place and say, oh, well, that's inviting MBS to the UK is really a new thing, isn't it? Though, of course, the Frenchman, Macron, has already done that. I think rehabilitating somebody who has presided over something so ghastly as the murder and dismemberment of a senior journalist, even if he's not saying what you want him to say, is a little bit rich. On the other hand, I do earnestly think people should be given a second chance, and I suppose MBS has a nice smile, doesn't he?